When's the last time you had to give someone a piece of advice? When's the last time someone gave you a piece of advice and it really sunk in? It was really what you needed to hear. I'll give you a second to think about it. Advice is the topic of today's video. So the reason this topic is on my mind today is because I got a nice question from my friend Mike Jones on Facebook. Let's read it. Good morning. I have a question for you. I've noticed as I got older that I really don't have any advice for anyone. I'm not a fan of blowing smoke up people's behinds, but I would like to be comforting when people are going through hardships of various degrees. What are your thoughts on this subject, and have you made a video about Zen and the art of advice? Thank you. Have a good day. There are 3 ingredients, I believe, to giving useful, helpful, meaningful, non-ridiculous or pointless advice. 3 ingredients: listening, being genuinely interested, and asking questions. Leah, L-I-A. Leah, be a Leah. Leah listens. She's interested, and she asks questions from her interest. This is all really important to absorbing the person completely so that a response arises naturally, and you're not superficially leaping in to give your opinion about a person's life. It's so easy to solve somebody else's problems, isn't it? I mean, I sit there sometimes and I listen to somebody, especially usually like if it's a niece or a nephew, somebody a lot younger than me, and I hear them having a problem that I had 20 years ago. I can just stop them halfway through. No, hold on. I know the answer to that, right? That's not a Leah. That's not what Leah would do. Leah listens, she's genuinely interested, and she asks questions. Let's start with listening. Back when I was a Zen Buddhist monk, we monks spent a lot of our time together in pure silence. Didn't have to talk to each other, didn't have to listen to each other, wasn't part of our practice. Then, one day, within our community, that all changed, and the fit hit the shan. And we all had to learn how to start speaking and truly listening to each other quick because our community was in crisis. So we had to hire somebody from outside of our community to come in and facilitate these listening circles. And it was really wonderful to have this experience. And I actually did training in these listening circles myself, and it was invaluable. So there were three things they taught us to do when somebody else was speaking. So essentially they were teaching us the art of listening. First of all, no crosstalk. So what this means is, somebody would have the listening stick in our listening circle. And when that person had the listening stick, and it could be a listening stick, it could be a listening coin, it could be a listening spoon, whatever you designated as the listening item, the person holding that item had the floor, and nobody else could speak. Everybody had to listen. So that meant there was 0 voices in the room other than that person's. No crosstalk. You just had to listen. That was the first, most important rule. Secondly, when someone is talking, listen. And that means also make sure you're listening inside your own head. Because if you're formulating a response to what that person is saying, that means you're not listening to them. So you have to listen on the outside, and you have to be aware on the inside of those moments when you've stopped listening and you've started to respond because you want to be smart, because you want to be wise, because you want to be helpful. No. Hold the space open and keep on receiving them. So listening is an art. It requires focus. It requires concerted will and effort to keep yourself open and to continually receive the person as they speak. You may recognize this quality by the word patience. You have to have patience. Listen. You'll get your chance to talk, but as long as they're talking, no crosstalk and no internal crosstalk where you're formulating your response. 3, no opinion, no judgment, no narrative. Let the person be completely brand new. You don't have to take what they're saying and immediately let it fall into your usual opinion of them, or let it become just a new chapter to that same old book that they've been writing about themselves for years and years and years. Let them be new in this moment. Treat them freshly, with a certain amount of freshness, okay? Because there may be something in what they're saying. There may be something new trying to get through. And it's your job to listen and help give birth to some kind of change instead of allowing them to trap themselves and keeping them trapped yourself in those same old categories. In sum, listening is a superpower. It puts you in a completely different league as a human being. It's what separates human beings from human animals. I mean, in my many years on this planet, I have met so very, very, very few people whom I really felt like when I spoke, they put their own thoughts on hold. They threw their judgments of me out the window, and in that moment, they received what I was saying, they considered it, and they allowed my words and my body language and my feelings to come into them. Listening is really and truly a gift, and it is a gift in this world that continues to impinge on our attention with the ringing phone and job responsibilities and the internet and social media and all this stuff all the old people my age keep complaining about. Like, in this world that is just taking our attention spans and shrinking them, to be in the presence of someone who can hold us completely and listen as we unburden ourselves or sound out our thoughts or share our feelings is a total gift. You need to be that person, and I do too. I was out on a date with a woman many years ago when such things happened in my life, and we started talking about turn-ons. And she asked me what my turn-ons were. I said something stupid and ridiculous, I'm sure. And then I asked her, okay, what are your turn-ons? And I'll never forget what she said. I thought she was going to be like a tall guy, a handsome guy, a rich guy, a smart guy, right? No. She said, my biggest turn-on is when a guy is really, really interested in me. And I thought, ew? But also, okay, it's true. There's no bigger turn on than someone really being interested in you. And when someone is really interested in you, that's how you know they're listening. And that's what gets you to start digging deeper within yourself and exposing more, sharing more. It's when you feel seduced to come out of your shell. So a sign of someone truly listening to you is when you feel that they're really interested. So part of giving great advice, and the I of our Leah, is be genuinely interested. And this requires empathy, I think. It's what we cultivate when we read good fiction. When we read a book like Anna Karenina, and there's this host of characters in there, and every one of them is a nightmare, basically. I mean, they're totally flawed. They're ridiculous. They're beautiful. You know, you've got Anna Karenina, who's stubborn and she has all these high standards, and she winds up cheating on her husband, and you have nothing but total empathy for her. So similarly, when you're with someone and you're listening to them and they want your advice on something, check your Judge Judy side at the door and bring your inner literary professor into the room with you and cultivate some curiosity about that person. Try and enter their point of view. Because before you give any advice, you gotta know what they're all about and you gotta know where they're coming from. Otherwise, you're just gonna be objectifying them. So, you've been listening to them and you've been cultivating a genuine curiosity. What comes next? Well, holy bananas, Chief! You better start asking them some questions. That's how they know you're interested, right? Now, I know that as they've been speaking, you've been looking at them. I know for a fact you didn't look down at your phone or look over their shoulder to the other people in the party. You did none of those things. You were looking at them, not mad-dogging them straight in the eye necessarily, but holding them in your general field of vision, right? And you've been nodding. That's how you respond. They say something, ooh, it got in me what you just said. Ooh, yeah, and you nod and you smile and you're listening. And then there's a bit of a lull in the conversation. Suddenly, he or she is bashful. I've said too much. I feel foolish. This person thinks I'm an idiot. No, they don't, because you ask a question based on what they said to you. You want to draw them out of themselves a little bit more. Allow them to unburden every last bit of themselves. You need to receive them completely, all of them, before you can give proper advice. Otherwise, your advice is going to be partial, it's going to be incomplete, the conversation is going to be half-assed, and not necessarily worth anybody's time. Man, you are a professional human being. You are not a human animal. You listen. You are interested. You ask questions. And then, baby, you give advice. Before we get to the actual giving advice part, I just want to close the loop on Leah. Dear Leah. Leah, she listens, she's interested, she asks questions. You and I are Leah when we're in that advice-giving role. And is it easy? Does it come naturally? If your answer is no, you're probably a narcissist. No, I'm kidding. You're normal. It doesn't come easy. It's a practice. I had a Zen teacher once, and we were talking about koan practice, right? And he said, when you give your answer to the teacher, it's like you got to be a great actor, right? You got to just throw your answer out there with everything you've got. And I remember asking him, wait, are you just saying basically that even if I don't have an answer, I just make something up? I just basically fake it until I make it? And I'll never, ever forget his answer. He thought about it and he said, no. He's a gruff guy. He goes, no, you don't fake it till you make it. You fake it till you're not faking it anymore. And I think this kind of goes for Leah. If you're not yet Leah, just fake it. And fake it until you're not faking it anymore. And so now we have come to the moment of advice. And as we pause on the precipice of this moment of advice, I am reminded of the most simple, basic Rinzai Zen, Zazen, or meditation instruction. I remember one time, it was maybe Harada Roshi, or maybe it was Noritake Roshi, some of these Rinzai Zen guys I've worked with. I don't think it was Sasaki Roshi. But one of them was saying, it was like almost the kind of Dharma talk that was so boring you wanted to fall asleep because it was such a truism. And in fact, I think a lot of what I've been saying today, I'm respectful of your intelligence, and I know that I have been speaking kind of truisms to you, but sometimes it's good to hear something that's so obvious but stated and put to words so that we can kind of contemplate it and bring it out in the open. So that's what I've been trying to do with this very obvious discussion today on Leah and giving advice, right? And I remember what the Zen master said, all you're doing when you're meditating is breath. You're just sitting and breathing, shikantaza. You're just sitting. And when you inhale completely, then the exhale happens naturally and completely. And you deliver the exhale with total sincerity, and then the inhale happens with complete ease and naturalness. And the oxygen fills you. And then the exhale happens with equal ease and naturalness and equanimity. So too, we have inhaled the person as Leah, listening, being interested, and asking questions. And now our advice flows out naturally. It's a response. It's not a reaction, not an opinion, not even advice. It's just a response, a giving back after you have taken in what they gave you. The gift of listening, truly listening, means something to people. And what it means is, in my experience, it means that they've been heard. And when people are truly heard, they start listening to themselves. They start hearing themselves. Have you ever noticed that when you start talking to someone and then you realize they're really listening to you, and then you hear what you just said? And then if they're interested and they're curious, you start speaking more and you start hearing yourself and you start talking things out. So if you've truly been a good Leah, by the time they're done talking, they've given themselves the answer 9 times out of 10. So giving advice does not mean doing people's introspection for them, right? Like it's not your job to think for someone. It's not your job to do someone's introspection for them. I think if you're giving advice, your job is just to have a genuine response to what they've said. And in closing, there's 3 things that I think you can do to give a genuine response. Number 1, be honest and tell them the truth. They deserve this. Number 2, be kind. Not necessarily nice, but kind. So kind means you are on their side. Even if the advice you're giving is not necessarily what they wanted to hear, you're still on their side. That's the vibe. That's the kind vibe. Number 3, be brief and be clear and get to the point. Be lean of speech. Nobody wants a stem winder or a big long disquisition. Okay, Chief, I'm going to look at my notes here and I'm going to summarize today's talk. Number 1, I'm going to give advice and giving advice. And most of the advice I'm going to be giving about giving advice is don't give advice. Just Leah. Listen. Listening is a superpower. Absolute, total superpower. What did I say about that? It's a superpower. The ability to listen is what separates human beings from human animals. Oh my goodness, almost no one knows how to listen. I know this because no one listens to me. I didn't talk about that. But anyways, my girlfriend, she says to some friends, she says to these friends, she says, hey, do you know why my son and I have a good relationship? They say, why? She says, because I always ask him first, do you want my advice? If you're going to give advice, ask first, do you want me to give you advice? No crosstalk. If someone is speaking, zip them lips. So what makes me feel like someone is listening? They're interested in what I'm saying. They're interested. Oh my gosh, they're interested in what I'm saying. They're interested. They ask questions. They're curious. They want to know what comes next. Ask questions. You will help them uncover secrets from within themselves. See, it says it right here. You will open them up and let them come out. Wow, magic. 2 exclamation points in my notes. Hey, guess what, brah? It's not your job to do people's introspection for them. Look it. Don't fake it till you make it. Fake it till you're not faking it anymore. And finally, be honest, be kind, and be brief. And on that note, I'm out of here. If you enjoyed this video today, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, and I also want you to leave a comment sharing with me your thoughts on advice. Also, if you want to support this channel, in the description for this video, I've got a PayPal link, and I've also got a Patreon link. Anyways, if you want to support this channel, I offer this stuff for free. I almost said teachings. I don't like that word. I offer this stuff for free, but if you want to support what I do here, you can help me out on Patreon. I'd really appreciate that. More and more, I'm coming to rely on this for my bread and butter. So any help over on Patreon or through PayPal is greatly appreciated. Now, get out there and be a Leah. Ciao, Leah.